Hey guys, how are you? How are you? Thank you for joining us uh, on a afternoon, conversation with the Stacos. So for those that are not following Stacos on Twitter, get your life right because you guys have to follow them. They tweet real time calls. They come into 911, and the best part about their tweets is they make it fun. Like it's not so like so serious, and I think that they put a really dope spin into how you engage the community about calls that go through 911, because I can imagine being a person who is a 911 operator and taking some calls that may be a little bit interesting, that sometimes you want to fall out laughing but you can't, right? So we're really excited to have the Stacos team here. They've been some really dope people. Again, you got to follow them on Twitter if you want to really get the real time tweets on 911 calls, y'all, because it'd be hella funny. Max, what up? Izzy, Stanley, what up, y'all?
What's going on?
How we doing?
What's up?
What's going on?
So Max and Stanley, that's Izzy. He's part of the Southern Roxbury Community Partnership. He's one of our squad members, one of the most consistent people that show up and pull up, doing the work about what's happening on Mass and Cass. So a little spiel about us. We're the group that launched a whole campaign. Since it's campaign season, right? We decided to join campaign season. So we got a campaign called No Plan, No Vote. We want to hold elected officials accountable to actually finally addressing the issues on Mass and Cass, which is for most of us who live in Boston, grew up in Boston, know that this has been going on for 30 plus years. And I don't think that we can no longer hide this. And since we follow your tweets, and when we look at your tweets, we're like, man, another massive call, another person, exposing themselves, another call for help, and so, we kind of want to talk to you guys about that. So can y'all introduce yourselves?
I'll let Stacos go first.
Sure, I'll go first. It was great. It was great meeting you. I'm Stanley. I'm kind of the creator of this whole account, and it's wonderful to be here. Thanks for the invite. And I tell you, I didn't know a lot about that Mass and Cass until in the last 3-4 months. I mean, I drive through there almost daily, going in and out of work, and I just know it's been a horrible doing what's happening. I was like, how can this be? This is the entrance to the city. And until recently, when I started to hear those protests, like every other Wednesday, every other Friday, we're getting all these requests online. It's like, hey, what's going on down there? There's a protest. It's blocked. I'm like, what do you mean? I mean, we don't usually we'll get a notice when there's something coming out of some kind of a social type protest going on. But these are just popping up. It was like consistently at the corner. I'm like, maybe, and then we start sending messages. I'm like, oh man, this is just great. This guy is just bringing attention, and I tell you, it's a big disruption to the city when that happens, but it is great awareness. So I commend you for that. So yeah, so we
sorry, y'all. We sorry. We just want to save some lives, and
right. I mean, that is and I'm surprised that this hasn't been a bedrock for a crime source. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. Most of the stuff that happened, there's quality of life kind of crap. There's been a few stabbings there. There's been a lot of people, disrobing. And actually, that CVS at the court on Harrison Ave, this is. I don't know why anyone goes in there. That place always stuff going.
Right. Right. Because I lived there for a couple of years myself. Yes. And I mean, I grew up in the South End area, in the projects, and when you've seen everything. But when you're in that area itself, when your kids are around there, and they thank God, it's unbelievable. It's
right. And on the surface, and this is what we do, because on the surface, even a couple of blocks from there, it looks like just get families living there, and people have no idea that this stuff is happening just a few blocks away from it. So this is why we started to do a long time ago. It's like, just bringing awareness to different part of the city when there's a lot of crimes up, because it's not being reported on, it's not on anybody's radar. And it's an embarrassment, just like you're quick to put those politicians, in their space. Like, you know what? Thanks for all your words. Thanks for you trying to do this and that, but what are you going to do for me? If you can't get that little part of the city, to handle, how are you going to have all these projects for the entire city? It never make any sense with me. And when you guys were talking to Jeanette Hu last week, and I was somewhat disappointed in her answers. Like, all right, I've got all these goals, but I don't think mass income is something I need to focus on. I'm gonna have a plan that's citywide. Well, that's good. We want that also, but what are you gonna do for me? Because that's what that vote is looking for. What's in it for me? And I've yet to hear that from any of this of these city officials.
So Max, what's up with you? Who are you? Who are you?
I'm Max.
Who is you, man?
Who are you, buddy?
I'm Max. I'm from the inner city. I migrated to Boston when I was about 6 years old. So I've lived in the inner city of Roxbury all my life, pretty much. I've been with the Stacos team for about 4 years. Stacos didn't recruit me. I kind of just joined when I was working security with him, and everybody just kept saying his name. I'm like, your name sounds familiar, and then I followed the Stacos feed back in high school. So then I finally figured out it was him. And then like a year into knowing him, I jokingly said, hey, how can I join the Stacos team? That's when I started getting into criminal justice. I had just started college, and he gave me this long application with all these rules. I'm like, I'm not joining. There's too much rules just to tweet. And then I actually ended up filling it out, and then I went through with it. And then it was kind of fun at first, just tweeting. And ever since I started, Mass and Cast has just been like that for years and years on. It's one of the calls that we probably put out daily when we're listening to the scanner. I think at least 5, probably more than 5 calls. At least when I'm monitoring, you always hearing calls at Mass and Cast. There's just always something going on over there. I think that's one of the biggest epidemic in the city.
Yeah.
Even with the COVID-19 going on, I think Mass and Cast pretty much tops the COVID-19 because it's been going on so long. It's the worst area in the city. Even if you compare it to gun violence and everything that's going on in the city, Mass and Cast area is just terrible, That whole vicinity pretty much is, they all skirted all throughout, and you can find them there. They just, I don't know. How do you really stop that? It's tough, it's very tough to stop, there's not really a single.
From a perspective, I think the police, and Max could correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like the police is doing all they can to kind of damper down the crime, because they've got, when I go through there, if you would come into that area, you think something just happened, because they've got police fixed posts in a couple of different, the state police is really trying to push it, but it kind of felt like, they're moving people back and forth. Sometimes a group will migrate towards the prison on the state police side. Sometimes they'll migrate away from that gas station in the back. I think it's after they got assaulted. After those, was it a couple of CEOs that got assaulted there?
Yep.
That was so brazen. I think that really put them, they really had focused on that. But, I think the long term is what you folks talk so well about. What do you bring these people to get care, to get, and stuff like that. This is where I think the real solution is going to get. But what they're doing right now is just basically putting a Band-Aid on this thing, and just gonna keep opening up.
Exactly, and now the whole thing about like with the state police and the Boston police, as far as when they're on the main Atkinson Street. So when it gets to a certain time, say about between 4 to 5:30, where they're on Atkinson Street, that whole area, then the police themselves starts pushing them like a herd of animals from Atkinson Street all the way down to the corner, pushing them down to the state police area, because they know that state police is not going to do anything about it. So that's what it is. They treat them out there like they're animals.
Exactly, like herd of animals is pushing them around. I mean, I've never seen that. I mean, I'm from Haiti, and and I've been in places where there's a lot of poverty, but people always get treated decently, humanly. And I don't know how many programs that are in that are trying. In the morning, sometimes I'll see groups serving breakfast, stuff like that. But but it's like this is the greatest country in the world. I mean, we have a lot of stuff going on, but if you can't take care of this at the small scale like this, how can you take care of the larger program? And to tell a little bit about us, in case those who haven't heard of us, more, our focus is mostly on bringing awareness to gun violence, but we care a lot about quality of life environment also. So you'll see on a lot of our, tweets and a lot of our, information we send out, when just to bring awareness to us, like, all right, this is an area that could be okay, and there's a lot of stuff going on in it. So if you go into that area, just be aware this is what you're gonna come across to. So we've been trying slowly at focusing all with a hashtag, MassNcast hashtag, to try to get a lot of, to get all our information going to that particular area. So you'll start seeing everything that happened in this general vicinity, because not only at the corner, but the entire south end area, just so maybe 3-4 miles radius, we'll hear a lot of stuff popping out, a lot of violent stuff going on, a lot of robberies going on, just because if that area is so bad, and then the police is focusing just on that intersection, and they have a lot of resources going there. So the vicinity around there, and people are starting using advantage of, all right, the police over there, we know where they are. So, we're gonna be doing our business on this side of this side of town, because right there, there'll be less resources available. So they've got their hand full with this thing. Yeah, I don't know what the solution for that, the long-term solution of that's gonna be.
Can I ask you guys a question though? How many? Because I know we know this, but it is good to hear from you guys, since you guys are hearing the scanners. How many police districts actually cover MassNcast? Do you guys know?
Well,
I believe it's C6 and D4. It's South End and South Boston. They usually cover it, that area, but I believe it's those two districts. I could be wrong, but I believe those are the areas.
Right? And then the stadies.
Yeah, the state covers the state property, I believe.
Right, that's right. So on the McDonald's side, it's covered by it's covered by the South Boston station, and on the other side of the street is covered by like the Copley, Back Bay, and that's why this area is so because even when there's a crash happening, there's always dispute, like, okay, whose jurisdiction is that? Who's gonna take care of that? Because that's one of the problems also, because it falls right in city lines between the state and 2 districts of Boston Police. So people don't want to take it's like, okay, who's going to take responsibility for the crime stats? Who's going to be handling all this nonsense going on? So they're able to bounce it around between those 3 and say, okay, you know what, I'm doing my part. This guy's got to do their parts. So the people looking for the services are left in the middle. So I guess if you stand right in the middle of the intersection, you're probably in a good spot. No one's going to be touching you.
Hey, that's what we do. That's what we do in the middle.
Right? I know.
And we're just
go ahead, me.
What's up,
Domingos? Going on, Domingos.
What's up, Domingos?
What up, fellas? How y'all doing?
Good, how you doing?
Enjoying you guys, but it's actually 4 different departments. You got B2, who takes care of the Roxbury side. You got C6, that is the Andrew Station, South Bay side. You have D4, which is the South End area, and then of course the state police. So we got 4 different police who monitors that area, and they pass the buck to each district, even though they're under the same umbrella. You got 3 Boston police districts, which is all under one umbrella, and then the state police. This is why we watch them move people from Atkinson Street to the highway, because the state police are not going to do it.
You keep going in and out, Migos.
Did I lose y'all?
Yeah.
A little bit.
It might be in a bad area.
I don't know, Migos. So yeah, you still going in and out. So what I was
saying was, there's actually 4. There's 4.
Yeah, he's out and about doing some work. That's why.
He's always working. So until we get Mingos back, right? I have a question.
Can you hear me now?
A little
there he is. Yeah.
Easing up though, Mingos.
Turn off your Wi-Fi.
Yeah, probably turn off your Wi-Fi. So until Mingos is like fully on and works on his Wi-Fi, right? So I have a question. In the work that you guys do and behind the scenes on the Twitter, right? Like, how much advocacy do you guys see on a first responder level to advocate for the humanitarian crisis? Because literally what's happened on MassNcast is a humanitarian crisis. And I think that oftentimes we want to blame the police departments and we want to blame certain entities. And then we don't really ask the first responders in the Boston Police Department, the state troopers, how can we help aid that? Because at the end of the day, the police officers are also equally, in the path of this issue. And I think that we leave that part out, right? Because we understand that the role of a police officer, they're first responders, but I don't think that we ever really talk about what it feels like to be an officer in that location, having to deal with overdoses repeatedly, literally all the time, Narcaning people all the time, right? And then maybe arresting the same person like 10, 20 times. You know what I'm saying? Like, what do you guys think about that?
I think it's very difficult, and at times it can be very, very traumatizing. When you're constantly giving someone Narcan, sometimes they don't come back to life. Narcan doesn't always save them. You constantly have to be aware, do they have needles on them when you're trying to help them? Are you going to get poked with needles? Fentanyl is a very deadly drug. You can just chunch fentanyl or even sniff fentanyl accidentally, and you can harm yourself. So I think it's very traumatizing for those officers, Boston EMS, all of them work in that area. It's very tough for them. And what a lot of people don't see is that they want to help. That's their job. That's their profession. And they want to help them to the best of their ability. But there's literally only so much they can do. You arrest them. After you arrest them, you book them, bring them to jail. After that, are they getting the proper treatment? Or if they go to the hospital, are they just being released right back into the street? And I think the biggest problem is that when they get released, they're going back into the same thing that got them into jail or into the hospitals. They don't have anywhere to go. So of course they're gonna become reoffenders. Of course they're gonna keep doing drugs. Of course they're gonna keep being in that area because they don't have a better area to go to. That's where they go. They go back. They go to the same CVS. They actually go throughout the whole area now. It's not even just Mass and Cass. That's the center of it. But now they're going all the way up into the playgrounds, because I've actually seen Domingo on his live several times picking up needles at those playgrounds, bags of needles. And a lot of kids from the inner city, that's where they go to play. Even myself, I go to that playground right there to play basketball, to shoot hoops, and that field is constantly packed with people from Methadone Mile. So it's expanding very big. I know we call it Mass and Cats because that is the center of it, but it's expanding throughout the city of Boston, and it's affecting the youth and the children in Boston, especially because Pop Warner, that's where they go. There's a school the school's right across the street. They use that playground to play. So if they're going and they're coming across fentanyl, a deadly drug, now we're putting our youth in danger. And that's the biggest problem. And the people who are on it firsthand, the first responders, they experience it just as well, because when they go to these calls, they don't know if they're going to come across a needle. They don't know if they're going to cross somebody that's going to die. That can be traumatizing for them too also.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because we always wonder, there's some cops that are nice to us. Some cops, we're like, yo, like, what's up? Like, did you have coffee today? Because you seem a little angry for no reason. We just out here trying to help you guys out while in the process of holding, elected officials accountable. Because, is it fair to say, for as long as you guys been, in your personal space, in your work, this has been going on for over a decade. It's fair that we all say this, right?
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, from what I've heard, they've got a lot of respect for what you guys do, and you can hear that in the way they talk about, the protest, the way they handle it. I know a lot of times, they're looking for you guys to give them where you're gonna go next, and they were like, no, they're not talking to us. And the Super Bowl would be like, yeah, that's all right, let them do their thing, leave them alone. So just always keep that in mind. They understand what you guys doing. I'm sure they don't want to be there because, I mean, Max is the police. I'm not, but I think if I want to, when I suit up, if I was the police coming to work, I wouldn't want to get a 911 call, go respond to call and get some action. Now, this is the value of that is, and that place never, I think most of them are details. Most of them are overtime shifts, but a lot of them get put there also, by part of the shift. So they'll start the shift. You'll hear this car going there for 4 hours straight. I'm thinking, man, that's a bad day for whoever that is. Starting your day sitting there in the car, locked up in there, and knowing there's not a lot they can do. Just be visible, just be a presence, and I think that has an effect, because I would expect a lot more happening in that corner, because when I go through there, especially at night myself, I mean, I don't get nervous about a lot of stuff, but I get nervous in there, especially at night, because some of those guys, they come in and you hear those calls happening somewhere in the city, very aggressive panhandling going on. They're reaching into cars. I mean, some of those guys, they've had a bad day. They've had a bad life, most of them, and they're looking to score or they're looking to get something done. You just don't know what the mindset is. So, them being there has a very deterring effect, because, I can't think of any shooting happening in that area, maybe a few, maybe months ago, but they have a very determined effect on it. But they have a lot of respect and understand the role and of what you guys do.
Ooh, that's good to know. That's good to hear. Mingos, do you got anybody has any questions? Because you know me, I always stay with questions because I be watching them tweets and I be telling the team tweet this time like this one.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm like, good dope. So I know. Okay, so Rule 400, right? That's a big topic that everybody wants to talk about. How do you guys see Rule 400 impacting what's happening on Mass and Cap?
I actually think it's
an increase of calls and incidents.
I think Rule 400 was, in my personal opinion, was the worst thing that could happen to Max and Cass, because not only was Boston Police and State Police covering that area, and even the sheriffs was covering that area also, but now you don't have Boston Public Health Commission covering that area. They was a significant presence in that area. Boston Medical Public Safety was covering that area, and I think Rule 400 gives them the people on Max and Cass more room to do more things that they want to. If you don't have the less law enforcement presence that you have, the more they can do. So, like, for example, if Boston Police stops covering that area and stop having fixed posts, then they see that, and that's the more they can do. The more they can steal from CVS, the more they can go into these hospitals and assault medical staff. The more areas they have to do drugs, essentially, So I think Rule 400 is gonna cause an inflammation in the crimes that go on in Max and Cass, because there's just too many people on Max and Cass. Like Boston Police or State Police, they've had sweeps where they cleared out everybody. Sometimes they'll have nightly sweeps where they're clearing out everybody. But essentially, that just pushes them to another part of the city, and that's when they start going towards Stop and Shop that area, towards that park in that area, and essentially they just hit in another area. That's all, and it's a big problem that needs a big fixture, and I just don't think they have figured out a how. They've talked about the bridge, open up the bridge back to the rehab center. That was thrown out the window. I mean, I think that was like probably the biggest safe that they could have had, but that just didn't work out, and I just don't see anything, me personally, yet in the works that can fix that. But Rule 400, I think, was something that was bad for the Mass and Cass area. Really, really bad.
What was it taken away? What was the reasoning behind that? I mean,
they basically took away everybody that got Boston City special powers. So like Boston Public Health Commission, they got their powers from the city. BMC, they got their powers from the city. So they have like the proper equipment, handcuffs, batons, pepper spray, firearms for the people that had it. They basically took that away from them. So they're unable to make arrests on the Mass and Cass. They're basically unable to assist it. They basically, even Boston Public Schools, they no longer have that power and stuff. So it's going to be tough for that area to not have all these presences of these people that are able to help you, especially in the hospital, because we all know Mass and Cass, they're all getting pushed to BMC. They go to BMC. Those nurses in the emergency room, I'm pretty sure they dealing with the same people. They're having the same issues. It's very tough, and I think Rule 400 was something that it just happened so quickly too, and I feel like it's going to affect a lot of people, not even just that area, throughout the whole entire city. These housing developments, housing projects that did have those armed security guards.
Because remember, we in that area, we got Southie, we got the housing development in Southie, we got Lenox, we got Orchard Gardens. We have several housing developments in that area, in which all, I know you guys get skin calls on it that individuals are in the hallways, either trying to break into people's homes or doing lewd acts or drugs on their property. Like, I don't know.
You know, another spike I've also been noticed. I don't know if you noticed that, Max, is that those blue bikes, you know, those, you know, most of the stuff happening is like, I don't know where they're getting those blue bikes from, you know, but I mean, they travel as far as like in the Copley area, as far as, you know, and, you know, every time, you know, especially at night, you know, when they're looking for people, they always, you know, some guy involved, he's got a CD blue bike. So right, that connection right there brings them right back to Mass and Cass, because when I go through them myself and I always see them, you know, they got those blue bikes loaded, you know, with all that stuff, and they I don't know if they're yanking those bikes out or if they're using them for, you know, they're taking them from people, you know, but you know they just, I've been noticing a lot of those blue bikes, you know, going around being used, you know, for them to do what it is that they do, but it's all related back to that area, to that Mass and Cass area.
How many calls or scam calls do you guys hear about the businesses in that location? Because when we
a lot. Especially CVS, 7-Eleven, 7-Eleven, McDonald's, and the gas stations. If there goes more than an hour without a call there, or 2 hours without a call there, there must be nobody. There must be a sweep of Mass and Cass then.
Right. I mean, we try to focus on this stuff. You know, when we're putting information out, we're trying to prevent, you know, anyone from entering that area. You know, this stuff has seen progress. You know, so you know, it's hard because if we were to, you know, to stay, I mean, more and more we try to focus more on that area. But if we were to put out, we could have just a special volunteer just to work that section. Maybe that could be one of you guys for us. because we know it just, you know, just constant radio traffic of information coming out there, of incidents involved. I mean, it's all low level type quality of life crime and nuisance calls, but it's a lot of time being spent on that area just because the stuff stuff that could have been addressed, the source of it could have been addressed, and take that away. So if they really wanted to put some attention on it and try to get a permanent solution, that would, because when you got all these resources going down there, when the stuff is happening into Roxbury, into Dutcher, the shooting that happening, and that's why there's less response. You know, they really, so it's stuff that could be handled, not a police, event that could be handled on a social, as a social type environment and to take care of without having been a police be a presence there and having, again, they're very limited on what they can do other than giving knock-ins and pushing people along.
Yup, it's true. And do you because I know that they're constant, because even while we're there, we're seeing Stop and Shop. You know how Stop and Shops be having the little salad bars and all that stuff. Like we'll go there and go buy snacks to bring, because even while we're doing it, we're nice too. We're passing out snacks, water. We'll see individuals literally go inside Home Depot, shop. They go in there, make themselves some food, steal food, and walk right out like nothing. And if you guys been noticing, because I know you guys get the scans, that there's a lot of incidents where people are stealing their bikes and they're using machines. Well, guess where they're stealing that from? Home Depot, y'all. Do you?
There's a friend of mine. He's got a little vlog going on. He's trying to do a podcast, and we've been trying to find the right time to go down there and actually interview the people affected, so he can put his blog. And he's asked me to come with him because, first of all, he doesn't trust going there by himself. and then but we've gone by there like around 6 a.m, like 7 a.m. I mean, they everybody looks like they're amped up already. I'm like, man, I said, we're not gonna get out the car to go speak to somebody because you can tell they already got too much going on, So we really because we're interested of knowing why these people have been, what caused them to be like this. I mean, we know the underlying reason, it's the addiction, stuff like that. But at which point did you become? Because a lot of these people like we have involvement with, I'm sure they had normal life prior to that, and they became like that. So we've been trying to go down there and do some blogging and some vlogging of it. And there's never, we go there at midnight, everybody's all amped up. We go there 6 a.m, 5 a.m. There's never any time of period, where people are, maybe when they're just waking up, but it's just a constant. They always, I was like, wow, this is just this is, amazing. This is still like this.
Yeah, I mean, to me, And for people to understand that everybody that is out there is not an addict.
Yep.
They are not out there homeless because of the drugs. Because it starts from somewhere. You have people have lose their homes because of any situation that happened in their life. And like you said, nobody knows what's going on
Right.
in their heads or the process of where they came from.
Yes.
I had back surgery. They gave me perks. You know what? The perks didn't work. One of my friends said, "Hey, take an oxy or take something else, take a Johnny," and from there it turns into an addiction. So when people say that they have a choice, it to me, I don't like the when they say that, because a choice is one thing, but when you an addiction is something else. That takes a lot from you. It's not something you choose to say, "Hey, I'm going to be an addict right away."
Right.
You know?
Well,
Right.
it's a brain disease, I think, and it's like a smoker, and stuff like that. So yeah, you can tell that in them. Sometimes I'll see like entire families, and the way they group themselves, you can see, well, that used to be a boyfriend or girlfriend, that used to be a husband and wife. You can see how so that's so painful to see is when they build the tents, it's how they create, they try to create themselves a home. I'm like, come on, this is the United States. I mean, you mean I'm sure there's programs for that. And if anything else, you would have thrown, everything at it. It's like if you have a child at your home, if you have children and one of them really is out there, you try to, you try to put everything, in your soul and financially and emotionally to try to pull that person out of there. And I don't know, I can't understand why this is not happening. And I mean, yeah, it's 50, it's 100, it's 200, but it's not millions of people down there. It's not thousands, So even if by individuals, it's like, okay, tell me your story. What can we do to help you? For the lay person, that's why we will never understand what city officials and politicians are talking about. That this is a larger scale, blah blah blah. I think, has anyone been talking to these people to see what they need?
Yeah. And you know what the sad part about this conversation is, and I wonder what you guys think about it. Do you think that it's a good idea to have that many services in that one location? Right? Because one of the biggest things that we've gotten attacked on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, because we're the group that is saying we don't think it's a really smart idea to have so many services, 5 methadone clinics in a 5-mile radius in a community with a low voter turnout.
Right.
We don't think it's a good idea to have that many services in one location. And then we're wondering why so many people are getting stabbed, why so many, killings over there, why so many women are being sexually assaulted over there, why people lately can't even be at the red light. Because I know you guys have gotten some of those scans that even when you're sitting at the red light over there are people trying to jump in your whip, like people trying to door to steal the purse that you guys sitting next to, the driver's side. Do you guys think it's logical to have that many services, especially the comfort station, when drugs, at the end of the day, here in Massachusetts, they're not legal, shooting up fentanyl and doing all that stuff. Drugs here in Massachusetts have not been legalized. So for us, we just don't get the concept of having a comfort station when people are literally buying drugs right at right at the gas station, McDonald's. I mean, we sit there and you see so many plays happen in front of your face that you're just like, yo, is anybody not watching this? Like, it's everywhere. And like, we just don't think it's a good idea to have all those services in that location.
I agree. I think having all those services in one location is you have everybody in that one location. They're getting provided with a service, then they're going right back into their community. But then there's a lot of pros and cons to it, because how are they going to get to the other locations? Like, say, example, you put a location in Hyde Park. How are they supposed to get to that location? Do they know how to travel by bus? Are they able to get the proper funds to get there by bus? So it's a lot of pros and cons. I just feel like just because everything is in that area, it attracts everyone to that area. That's why Madison Cass is so packed with everybody, because everything is just there. It's convenient for them. It's convenient for them to walk up Mass Ave and go through a methadone clinic. It's convenient for them to walk up Mass Ave and take a right, and they're right there in the shelter. So it's convenient for them. I think that's why they're all in that area. And I think it just having all those methadone clinics in that area, they just want to keep them in that one area. And I think that's a problem, keeping them in our area, because this is not just a Boston epidemic. This goes on everywhere, all over the country. You know, like if you go to LA and you go to Skid Row, they're all over there. I mean, obviously our focus is Boston, but if you move methadone clinics, I feel like they'll just scatter throughout the city, and it could be good and it could be bad, because now the good part, you have less people on Mass Ave. You have less people doing drugs on Mass Ave, because that's where just everybody knows the target, and people are just going to always just drive by Mass Ave, just throw the fentanyl out their window, get their money, and keep going. You know, yeah. It's too big of an area to just cover with the resources they have.
I mean, I don't think anybody wants this kind of stuff happening in their neighborhood. I know, you know, I'm up in Brockton. I know there's a lot of you know, those homes for addiction people. You know, they kind of put them in random and residential areas. And there's a one there a few blocks from me, and you would never tell that it's an addiction home, you know, until recently I learned that. But you know, I think you know, having everything right there in one spot. Just like if I get sick here, I don't want EMS to come here and treat me and then leave me here and have the hospital come over here and drop me stuff every day. I want to go somewhere and get my treatment, and get back, you know, feel better, and come back to my community and be normal. So, you know, decentralizing, you know, those areas and kind of, you know, yeah, you know, they can get there themselves, but, you know, again, we go back to the services. Can you provide them services to get to what they need or to get to places where they need? You know, but I think it's just a matter of convenience. Leaving everybody right there in the same cesspool, you know, block, and have him go and get that treatment, come back, score the drug, come back. It's like a vicious cycle. It's almost somebody looking at this, like, I can make the most money out of these people. Just leave him there, spend some money here, put them back on the street. It's like, you know, it's ever ending. It's not gonna stop. You know, that's why even looking from the outside at this, you know, they could have their own reasons why they want to do that, you know, but you know, it doesn't make sense to the regular people. I mean, try something else. That doesn't work. If I'm, you know, something like that's insanity.
People just tired of tweeting about the same thing.
Right.
Yeah. all the time.
Years, okay. You know, let's try to do something else with it now.
Yeah. So real quick now, as far as having those type of, you know, in other cities and everything like that. So now, I got a question for you guys, right? Why isn't there one put in Swampscott?
And let's stay a bit, because you know me, I don't like that cookie cutter stuff. Why isn't this not in a white community? Community.
West Roxbury.
We're not gonna do this because we don't want to hurt nobody's feelings.
No. No, I mean.
She don't play.
It's the truth. It's the real truth. And people are always trying to point it's racist, which we're being racist, this and that. No, it's just real life what's going on, and that's that. People, you know, when something's racist, it's blatantly racist. It's racist. Yep. But what we're saying, why isn't there one in a white community? We're not being racist. Is why isn't there one there? Why is there predominantly in this South End community where it's predominantly people of color? And the inner city, it's the inner city. Like it's us that are affected. You know, it's not just first responders. They're affected the most because they're seeing it firsthand. But people in the local community, the small businesses in the community, their small businesses getting robbed, getting them broken into. The people who live in the community, their house is getting broken into. They're getting harassed on their way home. They have to be careful. They have children. They can't take their children to the park. Yeah. Why aren't these resources being provided in that community? Maybe is that why they're coming into our community, because we have the resources. So for example, somebody from Swampscott, the North Shore, the South Shore, if they have that resources there, would it prevent them from coming to Massing Cass where all the resources are? So yeah, no, absolutely. Why isn't it there? Because I guarantee you, if you go to Massing Cass and we're able to ID more than half of those people, I bet you 40 out of 50 people will not have a Boston residence. They won't be from Boston. And most of them aren't from Boston. They come out throughout the whole entire state of Massachusetts. because that's where everything is. That's where the methadone clinics are. That's where the shelters are. That's where they provide them with free food. That's where they provide them with all the resources they need. So yeah, why aren't there in other communities? Why is it only in our community that we have these resources? Why is it?
Yeah.
And a lot of the groups, I'll let you go, Izzy, but even a lot of the groups that come there to support, the donations and help uplift a dark space. A lot of them groups are not even from Boston, right? And that there's like a new conversation that we're even having as a group, that there's so many groups out there passing out toiletries, clothes, food. Majority of them, again, are not from Boston. So then there's that question of, is Boston, funding nonprofits outside of the city to do work, and not funding issues to prevent the issues, support the work here in our community. In addition to that, like, why aren't these groups helping us? You know what I mean? Like, helping us address this issue in their community and helping us advocate and say, we want a comfort station in Swampscott. We want a comfort station in our community. And we just don't see that level of like energy. But then, we get crucified, and Izzy knows, we get crucified all the time for saying, yo, like, when we go out there, even us, like, we get called out for when we're out there giving out clothes. We'll get messages on Twitter, Instagram, like, yo, all the clothes that y'all just donated is all over the community. Are y'all gonna come clean it up? But it's the truth, right? Like, the businesses in that location get fined for not cleaning that up. Like, yesterday, it looked like the city did like a cleanup in that area. And they had a tractor because how much trash was in that location. And they looked like they were cleaning up trash. And then people were so upset, saying, oh, a fancy politician must be coming by. And it's like, why are y'all mad? We have human beings out here in their own feces and urine and clothes that have been out there and food that have been out there for days. Like, what are y'all talking about? So y'all okay? We're into human beings being in their own, smelling their own feces and urine. But y'all mad because a tractor had to come and clean up pounds of trash?
Right.
That makes no sense.
Yeah, I'm surprised it hasn't showed up. You don't see a result on that in widespread, violence, crime, property crime, stuff like that in this entire neighborhood. I'm just, maybe because they're so addicted to the stuff that they've taken. I mean, because that's just a recipe for disaster. Having that many people in that same concentration, and the stuff that's happening there. I know. And going in there, police officers going there, really not without the right equipment. You go in the hospital setting like that, you'd be dealing with folks with suits on, with masks and double gloves on and stuff like that. I mean, they've got to go into that environment, especially during that COVID period. That must have been traumatic in a way to go throughout your 8 hours having to deal with that. But I tell you, continue to do what you do, and you are definitely bringing a spotlight to it. And sometimes that's what it takes. Like what they say, when you protest the voice of the unheard, where they're hearing you loud. Believe me, especially on Friday afternoons.
and just know you can't. And just know you can't make everybody happy. We learned that. You just can't make everybody happy. No matter what you do,
we got a fair share of haters over here stuff. So
can't make everybody happy.
But is there anything you guys want to close us out with and kind of tell us where to find you? Because I know a lot of people, like, they don't got Instagram, they're not on Facebook. Like, how can we find y'all? I keep telling people, like, yo, y'all got to up level. Go on Twitter. Like, if you really want to go out
right. Twitter and Snapchat's the best place to find us at Stacos. We mostly stick to Twitter and Snapchat because Twitter is the quickest way to get everything out. You just type it up real quick. Hey, this is going on, compared to Instagram, you would have to upload a story every 2 seconds, and same with Facebook. And then Snapchat, we're on Snapchat at Stacos also. We're always looking for videos. Sometimes we try to enlighten the crowd that's watching us. We try to find funny stuff. Also, we're always looking to post funny stuff, and drama's always happening in the inner city. I'm mostly the one that's tweeting with a twist because I see it. Like I literally go down the street. I live in Roxbury, so I literally go down the street, and sometimes if I hear a call and I see it, and I sometimes it's really what's happening. Some people think we're joking, and at times we're joking because we know growing up in the inner city, I know what it's like. You know, I know how a fight can be, what caused the fight, and you sometimes you see the fight, and sometimes it's a little funny. It could be over nothing. It could be over a bag of chips, and they're just joking and yelling. But a person who's not from the inner city will pass by. Hey, they're having a huge fight, etc.
That's true because I'm not for nothing. Real quick, when we was out there one night giving out food, and I was trying to standing right in front of the table trying to get one person at a time, and in the background, right, I hear these two guys. They're like, "Yo, you want to start something?" Right? He's just like, I'm talking about. I stopped for a second, right? I turned around, and he's like, ugh. And then the one that he was yelling at, you know, he was like, "Yo, no, you just kidding, bro. You just, you know." And then,
Exactly.
and I'm just like, you never know. You got people walking by you coming out. This one guy came and just blurred out. He's walking by. He was like, "I want to fucking kill somebody." You know, God forbid, you know,
right.
how these people feel.
It's like, hold up, look, we moving over here. There's some police car over here.
Right.
Well, I tell you, you know, we want to help you in that mission. So anytime, you know, when you have scheduled stuff, always reach out to us. Let us know. We'll try to help you get the word out. You know, if you have images, if you know, even you know, short videos, we want to make sure we broadcast and we let people know what it's got. It's an important work, and we fully support it. And I didn't know much about you guys until we start talking, and I've been watching the way you guys act, how you guys, you know, project yourself, and the way you go about doing it. And that's the only way you can do it. You know, again, just like Max said, you know, nobody's gonna like it, but it is what it is. We live in those neighborhoods. We see it every day. The way I started this whole thing was because in my home country of Haiti, when there was no resources available, you know, people had to turn to NGOs to program, to volunteer. That's what brought me to volunteer work, is doing stuff, you know, outside, you know, I didn't know anything about volunteer or doing the stuff using the short term in tweets and stuff like that, but I learned it. And that's the quickest way to get help to people and get the word out. So, you know, keep at it. And thanks for inviting us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
All right, guys. Have a good afternoon, yo.
You too. Bye. Enjoy the weather.
All right.